In this video, I'm going to teach you about multiplying and dividing fractions. Now, multiplying fractions is fairly simple. You just multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators, then simplify. So, a visual example would be, I'm just going to say one numerator over a denominator times another numerator over denominator, and that's what we're doing. We're multiplying these two fractions. Well, that's just going to be the one numerator times the other numerator all over the one denominator times the other denominator. So looking at that as a number, say I give you 2 over 3 times 1 over 2. Numerator times numerator, 2 times 1 is just 2, all over 3 times 2 is 6. And we know that 2 over 6 can be simplified because both can be divided by 2. And that's going to give us 1 over 3. Now dividing fractions is pretty similar. You're going to multiply one fraction, but you're going to multiply it by the reciprocal of the other fraction. And the reciprocal is just 1 divided by the number. So if you take 1 and divide a fraction, you're really flipping the fraction. You're going to have one numerator and denominator, so one fraction divided by another fraction is going to be the same thing as doing the first fraction by the reciprocal of the green fraction. So we're going to put the denominator on top and the numerator on the bottom. And that's just going to give us the numerator times the other denominator all over the denominator times the numerator. What I mean by flipping is this just gets switched. The d goes on top and the n goes on the bottom, and then they're multiplied together as opposed to divided. So let's look at an example of this. Let's say we have 6 over 4 divided by 3 over 2. Now this example is pretty easy because 3 goes into 6 evenly and 2 goes into 4 evenly. So you can just divide it straight across like we multiplied and just do 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2, and 4 divided by 2 is also going to be 2, and 2 over 2 is equal to 1. But that won't necessarily happen with all your fractions. They won't always go into it evenly. So we're going to flip this one just to get you used to flipping the fraction. So we're going to take the 6 over 4 and we're going to multiply it by flipping the second one, 2 over 3. So this is going to give us 6 times 2 over 4 times 3, which is going to be 12 over 12, which we know is 1 whole, or just the number 1. Let's look at a few more examples. So we're going to do 5 over 8 times 2 over 3. So this is just going to be 5 times 2 all over the denominators multiplied together, 8 times 3. So that's going to be 10 over 24. But 10 and 24 we know can be simplified. And the biggest number that can go into both of them is going to be a 2. So if we divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2, we're going to get that 10 over 24 is also equal to 5 over 12. And 5 over 12 cannot be simplified anymore, so that won't be our answer. Another example can be 9 over 10, so 9/10 times 2. Remember, now, we have a fraction times a whole number, but remember, a whole number can be written as a fraction. So we're going to have 9 over 10, which is our original, which is our first factor, times 2 over 1. Because 2 divided by 1 will just give us 2. Times 2 over 1, because that's saying that we have 2 whole parts out of the 1, which would give us the number 2. So now just multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. So we're going to have 9 times 2 over 10 times 1. So that's going to be 18 over 10. Now, 18 over 10 can be simplified. Both are even, so we can automatically right off the bat divide them both by 2. And 2 also happens to be the greatest number that we can divide equally into both of those. So 18 divided by 2 is going to be 9, and 10 divided by 2 is going to be 5. So our answer is going to be 9/5. Let's look at a couple of dividing examples. Let's say I give you 5 divided by 8, so 5/8 divided by 3/2. Right here is this is a good example because 3 does not go into 5 evenly like in our example problem it did, so we're definitely going to have to flip the fraction. So now we're just going to do 5 over 8 multiplied by the reciprocal of the second fraction, 2 over 3. We're moving the 2 up to the top and the 3 down to the bottom. 5 times 2 all over 8 times 3. 5 times 2 is 10, 8 times 3 is 24. This problem looks pretty familiar. We've already simplified this. This is our first multiplication example, and this just becomes 5/12. On to our last example, we're going to do 6/7. So 6 over 7 divided by 4/8. So we're going to start by flipping the second fraction, so it's going to be 6 over 7 times 8 over 4. You can also flip the first fraction if you'd like to, but remember to only flip one of the fractions. 6 times 8 is going to be equal to 48. 7 times 4 is going to be equal to 28. I know that 4 is going to be the greatest number that divides evenly into both of these terms. So dividing the top by 4 and the bottom by 4 will simplify this fraction. This is going to give us 12 over 7. This one is another great example. We can double check our work by simplifying first. So we have 6/7, but what is 4/8? 4/8 is simply 1/2. So if we do 6 over 7 divided by 1/2, because 4/8 and 1/2 are equivalent fractions, that's going to be 6 over 7 times, flip it around, 2 over 1. 6 times 2 is 12, and 7 times 1 is just 7. And we got 12/7 again, and we didn't have to simplify further. So it's just a matter of preference whether you like to simplify your fractions first or wait until the end. In some occasions, if you simplify before, you will also have to simplify at the end as well. So most of the time it's just easier to simplify at the end.